Tonight, Tinashe Anderson Maburu shall be sharing with us on issues bedeviling the youth in our society, issues ranging from substance use and abuse, depression, among other things, and also would like to tap into his experience from student activism, the role that the youth can play in leadership and in politics, in this episode of the one-on-one show at AFC Youth Magazine. The Duke of Mabvuku, Mr. Tinashe Maburu, welcome to the one-on-one show at AFC Youth Magazine.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and greetings to you and the rest of the team.
Thank you so much, Maburu. I was checking your profile and coming to think of it, I think you are such a perfect example of someone who made it, but coming from a very humble beginning, from the dusty roads of Mabvuku, and you are nicknamed the Duke of Mabvuku. I think there is a catch in that nickname to portray you as someone who grew up from humble beginnings and then made it to the person that you are, who is actually now sought after for his opinion analysis on television, on radio stations. Maybe as an introduction, can we start from there? Who is Tinashe Maburu, and how has the journey been like for you to get to where you are currently?
Okay, thank you very much for that. I always appreciate the grace of God for making me who I am today, and for holding my hand throughout the whole journey. So, Tinashe Anderson Maburu is a 25-year-old boy, was born in Mabvuku, to be specific, who grew up in Old Tafara. And I'm the firstborn in a family of 4. We have 3 boys and a girl. I did my elementary school at a place called Royal Preschool, which was a creche located at a church, but then up to this day it's no longer there. But then grade 1 to 7, I did it at Tafara 1 primary school. Then from 1 to 4, I did it at Tafara 1 high. Then I did my A-level at Mabvuku High. Then completed my studies, at least for now, at the University of Zimbabwe, where I graduated with a Bachelor of Social Work honors degree. So that has been the journey, from being just a small boy who was at a place where it was a very limited space. Kuriku Tafara Tinawati Masinguru, where you have 2 rooms for
Yes.
2 families. That is where I started my life at. So I always laugh at the journey, saying, back then, only people who knew me were people within that specific room. But now, because of the grace of God, I've managed to interact with many people, and I've also managed to be known by quite a number of people due to various issues. So for the sake of introduction, I think that's what I can say in terms of where I started and where I am right now.
Thanks, Tinashe. Thanks so much. I think we shall delve deeper into all the issues, but mainly we want to focus on the role that you play as a child protection practitioner, and also you are a mental health ambassador. So from your experience, and as I highlighted earlier, that you have presented or shared your opinions on several platforms where children rights were discussed, and all those issues affecting the youth of today. What would you say what would you say are the main issues that are currently affecting the youth of today, like the ones that are outstanding for you?
The youths of today are being affected by quite a number of issues. Most of them, they are struggling with idleness. In our country, we have quite a scary rate of unemployment, where most young people are not going to work and they are spending most of their times in the streets. And because of that now, some of them then resort to drugs and other substances. And you see that we are losing quite a number of people due to these issues. And the first issue that I've raised also relates to the issue of mental health related challenges, where because of the struggles that people are facing now, they end up facing the likes of depression, anxiety, and other things. I understand this platform is for a church, and many people will be wondering, why are we talking about mental health and depression and anxiety, and not classifying it maybe somewhere China and other things? These things are there in the Bible. If you look at David, he was a depressed king, and his depression is written throughout the book of the Psalms. I think that is also the reason why he had to like music quite a lot, because it's one of those things that can help you to recover from the mental health related challenges. And if we also look at Elijah, Elijah once reached a stage where he was having suicidal ideation, where he had reached a point where he thought all was not working for him. And there are many examples of mental health related challenges in the Bible, that if we sit down and think it through, we can actually tell. And the other challenge that young people are facing is a lack of opportunities in leadership, be it in the church, be it in politics, be it in the community. Our society is clinged onto the idea that only those who are adults by age, or those who are senior in terms of the years, are the ones that are supposed to lead. But you remember the story of Job, where Job and his other elder friend were discussing issues, and then the way they were discussing it was wrong, to the extent that the youngest person in the room stood up and stood out by saying, I used to think that having gray hair comes with a certain sense of wisdom, but I was wrong. So you can actually see that young people can actually contribute with ideas. Young people can actually contribute even with leadership. I remember Paul, Paul having one of those people who were young, whom he was motivating. I think it was Timothy, where he was telling him that no one should look down upon the fact that you are young. And you are seeing that we also had a young bishop in the Bible, whose task was also to assign leaders in the church. But then this is something that is lacking in the church of today, even in the community of today, where we see leadership, even in politics, is largely people who are adults. So these are some of the challenges that young people are facing. And also our society has quite a number of child rights violations, where we have oppression that is happening, all sorts of abuse, some that are being done even in the form, even with religion being used to justify it, where we see young people who are not supposed to be getting married are being pushed or forced into early marriages. And this is indeed a serious cause of concern, because it has made us to lose quite a number of young people. And we've also seen very young people carrying pregnancy, which may be risky for them to do so. So I believe these are some of the challenges that young people are facing in our communities and even in our churches.
Yeah, I like the angle that you brought in, where we grew up hearing these issues. For example, taikura tichinzi kana munhu I think in some cultures munhu akange azvisungirira or akommita suicide, they have a way of demonizing it in our culture, where they say, I think it is not supposed to be mourned or something there, those cultural issues. And then you also brought in the angle of the church, where actually these issues are actually, or these social issues are actually being perpetrated by the church, where you find some apostolic sects, for example, where they're actually promoting child marriages, or some sects or some circles in religion where where issues to do with mental health or depression is demonized. They don't even call it depression. They will say abatwa nemweyo china, like what you were saying. So yeah, that's a good angle that you brought in. And on this platform, we also have youth members from the church, and I was happy to see that at the recently held youth conference, they brought in the issue of substance abuse and drug abuse to educate the youth. Are there other channels or other means through which the church can use to educate its congregants? Because as you have highlighted, that the church is not exempted to these effects. Our youth are actually the same. They are not treated any way different. In terms of opportunities, they are also lacking the very same opportunities. They are competing for the very same opportunities. So how do you think the church can address these issues, or can do more in order to address these issues?
I think what the church needs to do is to sit down and reflect on its theology or its doctrine, and identify there is some sort of toxic doctrines that are there that also perpetuates quite a number of challenges within the membership of the church. Because the purpose of the church is supposed to make someone feel at home. It is supposed to make someone, relieve from some of the challenges that they are facing, because we believe in the Holy Spirit. And when we were being told about the Holy Spirit in the Bible, we were told that it's supposed to come and provide us some sort of comfort. And this is the comfort that every individual must find in the church. So what we need to do is we need to sit down and study our Bible, pray for God to guide us, and have those sort of revelations that can help us to address these challenges. We need to speak more about these mental health related challenges as problems, not as something that is demonized, because the moment you demonize something is the moment that you make someone feel scared to talk that I'm going through depression, I'm going through stress, I have anxiety. But if we then look at those figures in the Bible that we appreciate that much, for example, David, many people preach about David, but the same David had some mental health related challenges that he was facing. He was someone with, at one point, he had guilt conscience that was brought by the prophet who came to tell him about the challenge that he had created in his nation. That incident, Bathsheba and the husband, and how the prophet came to talk about him, it brought a certain sense of him asking himself for what he had done and what was happening. And then from there, when we've identified that this problem was there in the Bible, we then need to see how we can respond to it. Because suicide did not start now. I think it was, I know of the story of Judas. He committed suicide after what he had done. So you see, these are issues that are there in the Bible. And because they are there in the Bible, We need to speak of them that much. And then we also need to help young people know that you can actually pray for something and then the response may be delayed or something like that can happen, because there are many people who are in the church who are being depressed because some of their prayers are yet to be answered, or they are saying we are praying, but this and that is yet to happen. So this can only be embraced or understood when we have some sort of intervention that is coming to help others. Because kuna vanhu vekuti when you are in the church, maybe wanonoka kuroora, or uri palevel rekuti they think wanonoka kuroora. Some of the words that they use to talk to you can actually make you start losing your self-esteem. And once your self-esteem is affected, then it means you are prone to mental health related challenges. And there's also this concept that comes with some within the church with their doctrine, who believe in the doctrine of victimizing a sinner. You can do something, a sin, and then because you've done it now, the way you are told about what you've done, it's something that may create some challenges that can even force you out of the church. Because if it's not done with wisdom, if it's not done with the Spirit of God, for sure it can lead you to other places. So the church needs to study more about mental health. It needs to revise its approach towards the people that are facing these challenges, or people in general, because some of the mental health related challenges they are created even within the church. Kunzi ukabvisa mota yako unogona kutenga dzimwe kana two, and then you fail to buy another car, and it becomes a problem. So you see, these are things
recently there was it a prophet who made a wrong prophecy about what was it, the final, and and a lot of people lost their mind. So yeah, what you are speaking to actually happens.
Yeah, so I think we need to be more active to be involved and fight substance abuse and depression with the same energy that we invest in other challenges that are facing people. We also need to embrace and understand that the church is not spared. I think if you are to sit down with many youths within the church, you can find that some may be, taking drugs or alcohol for some other reasons that they know. And we need to understand that this is happening, and because it's happening, we need to find ways that we can address it as the church.
Okay, thanks. You mentioned something, you were talking about David, and I think that was a powerful example where you said David was actually someone who was traumatized, and he even wrote about it, how his soul was crushed because of the mistake that he had done. So it's actually an example of someone who was depressed in the Bible. And I liked the example that you gave, that David actually resorted to music. That's why he loved music, because music was like the medicine to his tormented soul. So I wanted to ask you if what are the things or other measures that the youth can take in the event that they are depressed, so that they can move away from drug addiction or committing into drugs, or making those wrong decisions which lead to, let's say, suicide, for example. What's the escape route for someone, or what would you advise as an escape route when someone is depressed, or when someone is having anxiety?
I think the first step for one is to actually admit that there is something that is wrong with me. I have a problem. And the second step is seeking for help. We have our youth advisors in the church. We have our youth leadership in terms of committee members. We also have our pastors, and at some privileged branches, we also have our spiritual leaders, the prophets. I think these are people that you can approach to for advice. These are people that you can approach to in terms of even them praying for you. There are also others like David who can resort to music. Others can also resort to prayer, where you feel you are depressed and then you go and try to pray. I know, of course, there are those who may not find the words or the energy to actually pray, and that is when you need some help. Then this one, of course, as a trained social worker, I can also recommend that you seek for professional assistance. I think this is very important for someone to seek for professional assistance. I know, of course, some may come and say, where is it written in the Bible where I have to seek for professional assistance? But my understanding is that, I always tell people that everything that I do is something that I learned in the church. I'm a social worker, but providing counseling, it's something that I learned in the church through receiving the word of God. So when you are approaching me as a professional, of course, I may provide you professional assistance, but what I provide as professional assistance is not different that much from what you can also receive from someone who has a certain level of training, be it spiritual training, or even social training. There are people who are aged, who are adults within our communities who have been trained by circumstances to handle some challenges. You are facing a girlfriend challenge right now. Maybe you are in that stage where you want to get married and you have a girlfriend because you want to get married. And this is a stage that your mother or your father passed through. This is a stage that Mfundisi Church Kwaku also passed to. And because of that now, if you approach them, they can provide you that support. And of course, professional assistance can also come into place. Then when it comes to what people can do, I think it varies from person to person. Me personally, if I'm going through something, if I sleep, I think I can deal with what I'm facing perfectly. Or even if I go to pray, I usually deal with the challenges that I'm facing. So we also need to be preparing as a church to receive people who come to us telling us our challenges, so that when we are dealing with them, we don't deal with them with a judgmental attitude, where if I'm telling you that the challenge that I'm facing is connected to a certain sin that I may have committed, you need that Spirit of God that can help you to embrace that individual and to provide counseling, or you provide support in a way that embraces an individual. I think if God was like us human beings, was judgmental, I think most of us would have died a long time ago, because we can even go into a church when we know that we have done something that is against the will of God. So as people who are prophets, or if people who have spiritual gifts, or as people who have leadership positions within the church, we need to reach that point where even someone is coming to tell you that I'm facing a challenge because of a sin. You need to embrace the individual. You need to provide help to the individual, because even God provides us support and provide us even blessings when we are in the worst of states. Bible rinototi anzi Mwari anonayisa mvura mumunda wewakarurama nemumunda wemutadzi, which means that even us as individuals, we also need to be in that position where if it's prayer, if I'm praying or if I'm providing counseling to everyone, because no one is perfect. So I shouldn't look at the condition or the situation that may have brought the problem to the individual. And we also need to differentiate the type of help that we provide to individuals, because we are different. That's why my fingerprint cannot unlock your phone if it has a fingerprint password. Why does it happen? Because because we are different. And because of that, we also need to differentiate the type of counseling and help that we provide to people.
Oh, thanks, Tinashe. I now want to turn our attention to leadership or youth involvement in leadership. You were also involved in student activism. May you shed more light about that experience? I think, you know, those people whom they say are natural leaders or are born to lead. I think you're a perfect example of that, because you've been in leadership in church, you were at school, your high school, you were a head boy, and at university you were involved with student activism. And I saw a joke recently. Someone was joking about SRC. So what they were saying was, when you are at college, you will be too busy to attend to those things. Even myself, I can't remember when last I actually voted. I mean, I don't vote consistently when SRC elections are held. But the person was joking, saying five years down the line, the very same people that you were ignoring at college, they will be on the ballot paper now, and then they will become president. But you ignored them while they were at college. So what would you say, and how has that experience helped you, or the involvement of youth, even from our church, speaking from the context of our church, in politics or student politics, or in leadership, you know, in social structures or professional structures, just involvement of youth in leadership?
Okay, thank you very much. I think I'll also connect this with my passing shots. I think we are left with a few minutes. But like I said, I always believe that almost everything that I do outside the church is something that I learned within the church. Like I said, leadership, when it comes to me, it started in the church. I became the chairman of Tafara branch in 2013 when I was in Form 4. I think it brought a lot of controversy because I was in Form 4, I was young and I was leading. People were 30 and others who were at a level where they should, where we anticipate marriage, maybe. Then this managed to translate to the community where I became a junior councillor, a head boy, a ward development committee leader, at one point, Secretary General of Model UN. These are leadership positions that I had an orientation of how to lead in the church. And in terms of leadership, at school, where we were at university, this is something that I did because I understood that we have a mission as people who believe in the word of God, that is to spread the word of God to different levels in the country. And this may also include in politics. I know most of the people in our church don't really like involvement in politics because they think it's something that is too worldly. But then David was a king. And if we translate to the leadership of present day, David would have been a president. And being a king, not a spiritual position, because there was nothing spiritual except that he was anointed by God to be in that position. Then we also had Joseph, who was a governor. And even today, we have Dr. Mabvuku as the governor of the Reserve Bank. Back then, we used to have provincial governors, which is a position that I believe Joseph had. And this position had nothing to do with spiritualism. And if you trace it, you can understand that it was God who chose Joseph. I think we grew up being told Joseph was the chosen one. He was chosen by God to lead and also show people that concept of leadership. So indeed, I participated in student activism when I was at school. And then I also had time to go to church. I always made it a point that me participating in student activism or in other activities should not affect my relationship with God, because it's the power of God that planted that leadership seed within me, and it's the power of God that I should also spread to other people. So yeah, it's always interesting to have people within our church who are in politics,
Yeah.
and also, it's something that is good, because there are many things that are done within the country that can affect how we pray. For example, there are decisions that are made even by the president that guides, even during the COVID-19 era, the president decide how people should worship God. And you
Yes,
see
yes.
how important it is to have people in politics where they have
Yeah.
to approach or advise uh, the leadership of the country, how to, how to address some issues or how to approach the church, because these people do not have any understanding, maybe of how God wants his country to be, or how
What's
God wants his people to be ruled.
Most people think people are in politics solely for the sake of power, but I think, like you are mentioning, that it can also be an opportunity to have influence. So if we have someone in an influential position from a background of Christianity or a believer, then that can actually cause some changes to happen in terms of the implementation or creation of laws and all that. So yeah, it's really a good thing to consider for our youth. Yes.
Yes, and also if you look at how things were in the Bible, you would look that God is a just God. He
Mm,
stands with the oppressed, and because he stands with the oppressed and the suppressed, it also needs people who have an understanding of the will of God to actually
mm,
advocate for better things for the people of God. Because even if you check in our country, we have politics that is toxic. We have
mm,
politics that we see many people being attacked, many people being injured, and we have also heard, it's in the public domain, where other people are said to have died due to politically motivated violence. And because
mm,
we have a country that has such a system, it also means that we need to have people who are just. We need to have people who push for the protection of the rights of people, and also who push to ensure that no one is made that just because he believes in a different thing, or no one is victimized just because he believes in something that is different. And that is why you also saw some other countries being punished by God in the Old Testament, because of how they had abused or how they had murdered the people
mm.
of God through bad leadership. And even Pharaoh, one of the pharaohs once lived, was he had challenges with God because of how he was governing, and many people in his country died due to the punishment of God. Paya pakatsemurwakuva vakazotraya kutera, and they had to die
Yes.
because God had to protect his people.
Protected people. This is the one-on-one show at AFC Youth Magazine, and we are with Mr. Tinashe Maburu. We are going to take a short break. Please don't go away. Welcome back to the one-on-one show. It's AFC Youth Magazine. I'm still with Mr. Tinashe Maburu, shedding more light on issues affecting the youth in our church and society in general. Now, Mr. Maburu, you have a lot, I can say, on your plate, or a lot that is going on. You
Yeah.
sit on a number of tables. You have so many heads that you put on. We've talked about your work as a children rights activist, but I also understand that you also do poetry, and you are also an MC, a good one for that matter. May you
Thank
share
you
more
very much.
on those two, how the journey has been so far.
So I studied poetry. I think I was in grade 3. That's when I started poetry. We had a speech and prize giving day that was taking place. So there was this teacher who just said, I think you can be a good poet. Let me write a poem for you. And then that was the journey. That's how I started. And I even have a photo of my first poetry performance back then. That is in grade 3. And since then, I developed the passion of poetry. Initially, when I was in primary school, it was more of performing on prize giving days, and it was nothing else. But when I started now, I think Form 2, that's when I started writing for myself. So up to date, I've written about 25 poems. Some of them are available online, and some of them have been published in the Sunday Mail and other newspapers. And I've also been privileged to perform at different platforms, which also include ZBC TV, specifically the show that is called YGT, which is Young, Gifted, and Talented. So this is my poetry journey, and I usually write poems when something is going on, be it in the community or be it in my own life. And when I think it's one of the ways that I use also to deal with other pressures that I'm facing. But to be truthful enough, I believe poetry started in me when I was in Sunday school. When we used to be given memory verses to recite in front of churches. This is why I've always constantly said that everything that I do is something that has roots within the church. So when we were doing memory verses, it was all fun and games. But then up to now, you can see that public speaking, it's something that was planted within me, where I now understand how to address the public without any fear, without any stammering or any challenges. So that is about poetry. And then in terms of public speaking, it's also connected to poetry. But then when I was in high school, that's when I started learning other skills, where I had to participate in debate, being one of the leading members of the debate team. As Mabvuku, we managed to, during my time, we managed to succeed as district champions in Epworth, Mabvuku, Tafara. Then we also contested at the provincial competitions, me also being part of the team. This is also part of what we learned. I think I started standing in front of people in grade 7. At a certain all-night prayer. So what happened was we had an all-night prayer, Kumba, Kwagogona Sekuru, Gogona Sekuru, I don't remember Staracho, I was saying. So what happened was, Pakanzi, this is the time for young people, now I'm worried. And then Pakapashai Kwa Munu Akasumuka by that time. So everyone just looked at me, and then they pushed me to go there. Then I went there. Then that was it. I started preaching, and I remember it was Deuteronomy chapter 28. It's back then, but then the memory is still fresh. So that is how everything was cultivated. And after preaching, that's when I used to get the motivation. People saying, you actually did well. And I would then have comparisons with my father. I think that is one of the challenges that I have had to grow up with, where everyone just tries to say, are you going to reach the level of your father?
No, I think you actually sound the same. For me, when I listen to some of your sermons, I always confuse you with your father, who is,
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is it. Then in terms of MC, I think my first event that I was MC was a Child Labor Day. And
Okay.
on that day, there was the then Minister of Public Labor and Social Welfare, Honorable Priska Mfumira, was coming as the guest of honor. So there was no MC at that day. And then they were looking for MC. So I was a junior councillor, and that is why I had attended. So I was among the guests. Then someone just came and said, can you be our MC for today? And I tried it. It worked out so well that even the minister that day actually provided me with a compliment that managed to motivate me towards doing, MC. And this has been something that I've been doing. And I've been MC for different events, commercial events, or corporate events. I've been MC for church events, and I've been MC for weddings. And my first wedding that I did, it was a church wedding in Epworth. That was my first, and I've gone to do quite a number of weddings. And even this year, I'm actually booked for quite a number of months that I'll be having some weddings. So you see, the blessing with us being children of God is there are some blessings that come with mentorship that we find within the church. And some things, they are natural, they are inborn. I can tell you that I don't remember going for a lesson to start about how to speak in public. But what I remember is that I had to preach in front of children of God. And because of that, now I've had the courage to speak on different platforms. And it's something that helped me. Whenever I'm going somewhere, I just feel that God is with me, and whatever I say is something that has to touch a life, and also that has to improve someone in a different way. The public speaking, the poetry, even when I'm MC at events, there is something about God that people have to learn. And also there is an impact that I have to provide to the people who are there. So basically, that's what I can say in terms of the issues that you asked.
Yeah, you're actually an inspiration, because especially being a director of ceremonies at weddings, because I think that was traditionally reserved for the married guys, I mean the older people. But then it's good to see people like you taking up the roles. And I've also noticed, even from youth, that a number of youth members are also now taking it up as a profession, actually, MCing. So yeah, you are an inspiration to men, Tinashe, among so many things. You are really someone we always look up to. So before we close, Tinashe, maybe if you can just share a few words to our youth in AFC, our youth in general, our followers, and everyone who watch this, who will be watching.
Okay. So my starting point, I remember that when we were starting this program, you talked about the nickname, the dog of Mabvuku. So it's something that I had never really explained to anyone, how I came up with that name. When I started posting things on social media, I started calling myself a small boy from Mabvuku. And the reason why I was saying this is I never believed that I am small. But what I believe is I wanted people to understand that you can start from a very humble and looked down upon stage until you reach a certain point where some people can actually learn something from you. So, in as much as I've shifted from Mabvuku, but I always try to talk about Mabvuku because it helps someone who's in Mabvuku or who's in Budiriro or maybe who's in a rural area to understand that if something is being done, which may be this good or this great by something who started his life in Mabvuku, a person who's in Budiriro or who is in a rural area, I can also do it. If you follow football, you can remember, when Lionel Messi won the World Cup, the commentator, Peter Drury, said the little man from Rosario. So Messi is currently staying in Paris. He used to stay in Barcelona. And, with how big Messi is in terms of football, and with how big Barcelona and Paris is in terms of how they are as citizens in the world, you can actually see how your background should never be separated from what you've achieved, and how you should never be afraid or ashamed of your background. So what I want to tell to anyone, a youth in Gutu, a youth in Bushu, a youth in Gokwe, a youth in Nembozia, a youth in Tafara, is that believe in yourself and God will do the rest. Because once you believe in yourself, you are unstoppable. You can do everything that you think of. When I was back then in Mabvuku, staying in our area, I never really thought that maybe one day I'll be a head boy of a school. Maybe one day I'll be considered to be the overall best student in a district with 1,000 students. I never believed that maybe one day I'll be seen on a national television or read in a newspaper. But this is something that I learned to embrace. And when I embraced it, I started believing in myself much, to such an extent that my motivation mainly comes from myself. I know that I have to be better than I am today, because I don't compare myself that much with anyone, because I believe our stories are different. Our stories are different and our ending will also be different. So I need to focus on how I can motivate myself. Because if you do not motivate yourself, the world is full of negative energy. And if you have no self-motivation, you will not survive negative energy. I think this is the reason why we've lost quite a number of young talent or young people, because when they started doing something, someone looked down upon them, and that was the end of the story. I remember when I was still at Tafara, I was too small. My body is very small, and I believe I had a somewhat not so mature face. Some may like to call it baby face. So when I reached form 3, thereabout, there was something that was said where we were told that those who are now in secondary school must join the youth. Then we joined the youth during that time with Banamunyaradzi Chikazaza, and a lot of people were there. And Munyaradzi was my age by that time. But then I was told I should go back to youth because I look small and I have a small body. I should go back to Sunday school because I look small, I have a small body, I have a baby face and other things. Then I had to go back to Sunday school, even though there were people who were my age in youth. But I never made this something to take a part of me. I remained motivated because I knew who I was and I knew what God had planted within me. And just after a year, I became the chairman of that same branch. where I was told to go back to Sunday school because I seemed small. So you see what God does to you when you remain consistent and focused to what you believe in. And you know, I believe I'm still the youngest chairman that Tafara as a branch has ever had. And I think even in our church, I think I'm the youngest person to ever become a youth branch chairman at that age. But what happened with that, it became one of the best youths in the whole country. I remember even our choir used to be invited to different places to perform, and a lot of things would happen. And even at conferences, we always stood out because of what God had planted within us and what God had done to me as a leader. So a lot of things happened, a lot of changes, a lot of achievements. We even grew in terms of spirituality. I remember that period, a lot of blessings, a lot of gifts from God came to that crop because we were no longer that youth that would come to do choir practices, to receive teachings about other things. But we invested our time on reading the Bible and also kutomboenda kumatombo kunonamata chaiko chaiko. This is something that God did. So no matter how little you are, no matter how funny the place that you come from, know that if God has chosen you to do something, you will always make it. I'm still that small boy who grew up staying in a very small house, in a very small town, one of the looked down upon areas. But then still, I am proud of the fact that at different instances, the whole world, the whole country has seen my face, the whole country has heard my voice, the whole country has read my handwriting. And this is something that God can do to you. So to everyone out there, just believe in yourself and God will do the rest.
Thank you so much, Tinashe, and thanks for your time. I really appreciate that you managed to afford us your time to share on the issues that we're discussing. And best wishes on your future endeavors. Personally, I see you as one of the future leaders in government positions or something, one of the very big people to look up to. Thank you so much, Tinashe, for your time. We have come to the end of our episode tonight. Thank you everyone for watching the show. May God bless you.